Welcome to the Golf Sport Podcast. I'm joined by professional golfer Haley Vargas. Haley, how are you doing today?
I'm getting you.
Good, thank you. So we're in the off season in the winter. You're a professional golfer. You're going to play on the Women's All Pro Tour. Your season starts in about a month in April. So just how has the winter been for you? And how has the off season been so far?
Yeah, the winter's been pretty good. Just really practicing a lot, hitting the gym, really just focusing on, um, you know, getting my stamina ready for those long trips ahead, making sure to tighten up anything that I had go wrong kind of in my season, and just to get back to the basics and get ready for the season.
Yeah. So you're from Texas, that's correct?
Yes, Lubbock,
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah. So just tell me about, how has the weather been so far in Texas this winter, and just what are some of the things, you work on in the off season to get ready, for your season that begins in about a month?
Yeah, so the winter has been very interesting lately.
Mhm.
We had a really warm December. So
Okay.
so it was really nice to have that, I got to play a lot really in December and even into January. There were some days where I even was in shorts, and I
Okay.
was very surprised about that, being in Texas in December. But that meant obviously that towards, the spring season, that it would get colder. So around February, we had some days where we got some snow. So that, made me have to go indoors. And then within 3 days, it turned to be like 80 degrees. So it's kind of been all over the place with the weather, but I've been able to have some good days to get some work in for sure.
Yeah. You're in the off season right now, so just tell me about some of the things, as pro golf, some of the things you work on right now versus, what were some of the things, when you were a college golfer that you would work on in the off season because, you would have a few months off, from the fall to the spring season. So, just tell me about some of the things you work on right now as a pro golfer versus, some of the things you'd work on in the off season winter, when you were a college golfer.
Yeah, so obviously being at home is
Hmm.
a lot different than obviously being in college with your teammates working
Yeah.
during the season.
Hmm.
So I've just been doing a lot of, playing as much as I can. I do a lot of TrackMan, like dispersion numbers. I work with a stat company that, um,
Hmm.
just tracks my stats, and I'm able to put in rounds and see kind of where I'm kind of missing out on shots or could, have some shot strokes gained potentially. So I usually look at that app and get my numbers and kind of get a baseline of what I want to practice on for the week.
Yeah.
I do a lot of TrackMan numbers, trying to dial in those carry distances, and then a lot of putting and short game. It's very crucial to my game and making sure I can get up and down from those places if I am in there.
Yeah. Then finally, just about, the off season and winter, I wanted to talk about. So for you, do you find it more useful, when you can, when the weather's good, to go out there and, play? Is that more beneficial to you, or do you like to, go hit on the range or chip and putt? What do you find, more beneficial for you, to get ready, um, you know, once the off season's over, and you're
I
in the
like a
season?
good mix of both.
Mhm.
I do think
Yeah.
playing for me helps me prepare better for my events. Playing with other people, or just playing, one man scramble and hitting two T balls and playing either the worst ball or the best
Mhm.
ball. I usually like to switch it up. I'll play best ball on the front nine and worst ball on the back nine and see kind of if I can shoot around par or under par
Yeah.
with that. And, just making sure that I'm actually, putting in, proper work. Obviously, I'll try to play with a few friends out at the course. Or a lot of times, sometimes I'm just out there grinding by myself,
Mhm.
getting my work in to prepare.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I always like playing. Um, Whenever I can. So that's great. I want to talk about, you're going to begin your season in April in Louisiana. You played last year. You turned pro and you started on the WAT in June, and you got to go to, different states like Arkansas and Illinois, and te play in Texas and Kansas. So for you, what's it like, getting to travel? What's it been like, getting to travel to so many different states? What do you think it'll be like, to start your season in April in Louisiana?
It's been really cool to just
Mhm.
do travel. post, college golf. It's a lot different. Obviously, you're not with your teammates and you're not with your coaches. You're basically kind of by yourself for most of the part. I was fortunate enough for my first event to actually be with my former college teammate, Alanka
Okay.
Navarro, and that kind of really helped just ease my way into my professional golf. We got an Airbnb and, played the whole week together. So it was really fun to kind of ease my way into that. But come the next event in Illinois, I was um, just roughing it by myself, doing Ubers to the course and back. And
Hmm.
um, but it's definitely a learning curve and different to be in that situation. But I'm really excited for the season, and I had a lot of fun playing that half season after I graduated. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting back to it.
Yeah. And you played a half season. You started in June, and played, the remainder of the WPT season. Just what was it like for you, to turn pro last year and get to play, on the WPT? How was your experience, so far? What did you learn that, you think you'll take in, to this year?
Yeah, so my experience was pretty good. I
Hmm.
started off very well. My first tournament was actually my strongest finish.
Hmm.
So that was actually very good for me. And I was just focusing, obviously, on, putting three good rounds together in order to make the cut. And that really helped. And, I just took it day by day and really um, figured out my schedule. If it was a practice round day, keeping it light, but also, getting in that work, learning the greens, learning the different grass types that we have, and just getting used to the long week of golf.
Hmm.
And then also just meeting a lot of new people. The WAPT staff is super friendly. By at least the second event, they already knew my name. And, the girls are really friendly. And it's just a good place to be on. Um, and I'm really looking forward to the season.
Yeah. So you mentioned your first tournament. You got a tie for 14th. So you got a top 15 finish in your first tournament. Just what was it like, getting that, top 15 finish in your first tournament, and going into your first tournament, it was your first tournament, turning pro. Were you feeling prepared for your first tournament, or were you a little bit unsure? How were you feeling, going into your first tournament? You did very well. You got a top 15 finish. You had a 70 in your final round. So just how were you feeling going into your first, tournament on the WPT?
Yeah, so that was my first tournament on the WAPT. It was technically my second pro event since I played the Grapevine Texas Women's Open
Okay.
previously
Texas Open.
before
Mhm.
that. But that
Okay.
tournament was still a good tournament to prep for because it had a really great field. Sadly, our rounds kind of got rained out, so
Okay.
they took away the cut, but still, played really good there with not even getting a full practice round, having to, walk the course because it was flooded, and, made a check. So I was really happy with that. Just coming out of the gates, had my brother on the bag. So it was a really good experience. But going into my first APT event, first time I was traveling, out there by myself, obviously I met up with my, best friend on my K-State women's golf team and played with her. So it was really fun for us to have good success in that tournament. She's obviously a sophomore now at K-State, so she has a long way to go, but it was super exciting to see us play well together in an event. And it just helped, solidify that I'm, in the right place at the right time and I'm making choices for my future. And it was a great event and it kind of built momentum going into the next event and doing it solo.
Yeah. So actually, as you mentioned, Texas Women's Open was your first pro event. So just how were you feeling, going into that, Texas Women's Open? And just, how were you feeling, turning pro? Do you feel like, college golf prepared you well for, turning pro? And just, how has your experience overall been so far? Like, what have you learned, since you turned pro? You played like half a year, so far, being professional. Just what are some of the things you've learned, turning pro, and just how's your experience been so far?
Yeah, so turning pro has always been, my goal and dream. Obviously, I want to get to the
Yeah.
LPGA.
Mhm.
But it's very different than obviously any other sports. Basically, you just declare you're going to be a professional, and you start playing these events and playing the Texas Women's Open. It was in the Dallas area. Luckily, I have a family friend, Gabby Benencourt, that I, got to stay with, and it was a
Okay.
fun time. She also was playing an event. So I had a familiar um, friend and face there, and, it was around people I knew. I knew a lot of the people in the field, a lot of strong Texas players. And then a few, players from, out of state played. But I knew it was going to be a tough event just because the field was stacked. And it was a lot of girls that, I played in with college. So I knew that I had to have my A game for that event.
Mhm.
But luckily I played well.
Yeah, that's great. So I wanted to, talk a little about the WAPT that you play on, and just give, a little promotion for it. So tell me, about how you found out about the WAPT. Obviously, the WAT, they host a lot of tournaments in Texas. You're from Texas, but just tell me, a little bit about how you found out about the WAPT. How's your experience been playing on, the tour so far, and just what are you looking forward to most, this year, and your 2025 season that begins, in April.
Yeah, so obviously coming out of the gates, fresh out of college, there's not a lot of tours that we're able to play right
Yeah.
out the gate. Some of them obviously you need status, like the Epson tour.
Hmm.
But luckily I have a family friend. I've known her for years, and Hannah Arnold. She's
Yeah.
more of a veteran on the tour, and she kind of just was like, "Hey, this is a great tour to play. Really gets you some good exposure." So she kind of took me under her wing and kind of just showed me the ropes and everything. Um, and talked to the tour, talked to my swing coach, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a great tour to, start out on, get some experience, get some exposure, and then try to make your way up as quick as possible."
Yeah. So something else I've talked to a lot of players, and a lot of players who come out of college, the first thing that they do is play in Q school. I noticed you didn't play in Q school. You just turned pro, and then mostly played in the WT last year. So I'm interested to know, is your goal, ever to play in Q school? Obviously, I know that's in California, it's expensive to play in it. So there's a lot of factors go into if you can play in a Q school. But is your goal more, hopefully to play in Q school if you can and try to get maybe to the Epson tour even, you know maybe the LPGA tour, via that route, or is your goal more just to focus on WFT and just hopefully playing well and hopefully good results there will lead to maybe getting Epson tour starts and then going up from there. What are some of your goals that you have for your pro career and how you see yourself going forward?
Yeah, so I didn't obviously play Q school last year.
Hmm.
I was
Yeah.
like right up to the like sign up date, and called my coach Joey and was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts?" I'm really lucky to have a coach like him because he's had a lot of successful players and players on the LPGA tour,
Hmm.
and a lot of older players. So that way he has more guidance, to show us younger players kind of what route to go and everything. And he said, look, I think um, this year, because they're actually changing the qualifying sites for stage one this year.
Yeah.
So there's actually going to be um, one site in California, one in Texas, and then one in Florida. So that
Hmm.
way, not everybody is going to California and like burning
Yeah.
because of the heat. So I talked to him about it, and he was like, "Hey, I think put all your focus into this half season of WAPT." He
Hmm.
goes, and we'll do Q school next year whenever the sites change. He goes, I think it'll just be a better outcome for everybody. And he's like, you might as well just save up and really, really prep for it, get a good year's work in order to have the best outcome and success in Q school.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about that, given that they changed the format of, stage one. Stage one, you used to have to, go to California and play there, but now they're gonna have, three different sites, as you mentioned, and one of them will be in your home state, Texas. Do you think that'll, given that they'll have a, stage one site in Texas, do you think that'll influence your, your decision, given that, stage one will be, a site will be in Texas, do you think now that you'll be more inclined to, try to play in Q school versus than previous years where you would have to, travel all the way to, California and, get, housing there and, that would cost a lot of money, Do you think this change is going to influence your, decision about, playing Q school or not playing Q school?
Yeah, for sure. It really definitely changes my perspective on it.
Hmm.
I know last year when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, like there's a lot of obviously expenses that go
Yeah.
into, going to California for a week or so, learning two courses essentially, and then all the travel, the expenses, everything that goes into it was a big factor. But I, trust my coach and um, his direction and was like, hey, what do you think is the best option for me? What do you think is going to help me prepare for my season and in order to get to the next stage? And he said, look, um, we already have heard that, there's possible change that's going to be up through the side. So he said it might be more regional. So that might be, more of an incentive. And usually California, Texas, and Florida, they're the strongest golfing states.
Yeah.
So I was um, assuming that there would be a site in Texas. Um, and hopefully it would be a course that I've already played in my junior career. Um, it actually isn't, but it's in an area where I've played a few rounds. So I think it'll be a good place to play. I do think there's going to be a lot of Texas girls and a lot of strong Texas players that'll be there. But I'm up for the challenge and I'm really excited to get there and see what I can do.
Yeah, I really like that they've changed the format, that you're not forced to have to travel to, California, that you can play in one of the three sites. So I think that'll be a good change. I'm interested to know, you mentioned that you have some friends and things like that. Do you have any friends that you've met on the WPT or anyone who you've met that's nice, if you're gonna play a practice round or, just anyone who you've met, do you have any friends or anyone you're close with on the WPT?
Yeah, so a few of my friends that are on the WAPT, I didn't really see them until maybe the third or fourth event in the summer, springtime, just because they were finishing obviously college and everything. And but I'm really good friends with Zoe Slaughter, who played at Texas A&M,
Okay.
Lance Sines, Ellie Roth, Delaney Martin. Um, Obviously, Hannah Arnold is kind of like a big sister kind of role model to me. And then Lauren Miller, I played with her in college golf. So there's a lot of good players that are out there. Um, there's obviously a good bunch of like younger girls, but then there's some girls that I obviously have never played any
Mhm.
rounds with because they're a bit older than I am. But even playing rounds with them, they're super nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, playing junior golf, you grew up in Texas. Did you have any friends or any, fellow, players in Texas who you grew up, playing with, like in junior golf?
Yeah, so I played a lot of junior golf tournaments and traveled a lot. Obviously, I'm from Lubbock, Texas, so
Mhm.
everything's pretty far from us. But played a lot in Dallas, let's see. I played with obviously Gabby Betancourt. She's a really good family friend of mine.
Okay.
Libby Winans, Megan Winans, Haley Jones, Kaylee Vesley. There's But yeah, there's just a lot of good players out there um, from Texas in general. And then, seeing them every other weekend to play in a Legends Junior Golf event or, an AJ event. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about, your start in golf. So as you mentioned you grew up in Texas. Just tell me about, growing up in Texas, how you got started playing golf and just, what was it like, playing junior golf, just growing up, playing golf in Texas, you
Yeah,
know?
so I started at a pretty young age.
Mhm.
Started messing around with the golf club around 3, and then had my first tournament when I was 6.
Okay.
And back then it was co-ed, obviously because there wasn't as many girls that played. and, played a lot of junior events, growing up, the US Kids, NTPGA, and then moved up to the Legends Tour and then the AJ's. But we did a lot of traveling. We even played like the Oklahoma US Kids Tour as well. But we did a lot of traveling. My younger brother also plays golf. So me, him, my dad, my mom would always just go travel and play on the weekends. We obviously played other sports, but golf was just something that I truly loved and put above all the other sports that I played. And really just fell in love with the game. Knew that I needed to play in elite tournaments in order to be recruited.
Mhm.
Just because obviously our high school golf isn't as strong here in Lubbock, and
Okay.
the tournaments won't really get you any recognition or looks. So I focus more of my golf on, travel junior golf tournaments in order to get that recognition, which it paid off. And um, I'm really happy with how everything turned out, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I made those sacrifices.
Yeah. So you're just talking about, getting recognition and playing in some bigger tournaments. That's a, good segue into my next, topic and question that I wanted to, talk about. I wanted to talk about, for you, you played Division I golf at Kansas State, which we'll, talk about next. But right now, what advice would you give to a junior golfer who, wants to play, college golf, specifically if they have, goals of playing at a Division I, college? What advice would you give them in terms of how, as you mentioned, how should they get recognition? What tournaments should they, play in, and just, how should they, reach out to coaches and just get noticed, given through that you went through the process and you played, Division I golf. Just how would you advise a junior golfer, navigating, trying to get to play, college golf?
Yeah, I would say play as many events as you can.
Mhm.
Also, some can't or some coaches offer some camps.
Okay.
I personally didn't go to any camps, but that's a good way also to get your foot in the door and just to, have some one-on-one time with the coaches. Obviously, rules are have
Yeah.
changed since I've obviously been recruited, but I know there's a certain period where you're not able to talk to the coaches or they're not allowed to talk to you. So, one thing that I would recommend is sending out emails to coaches or schools that you're interested in.
Okay.
Just tell them, like, hi, my name is Haley Vargas. I'm playing in these events. List out your schedules. Um, Say, what you like about their college, what you're looking for in a program. If you want to win a national championship, mention that, ask about their team dynamic. Ask about, what a, normal practice day looks like. What does traveling look like? How do you do qualifying? Any of those things. That'll help the coaches, build a rapport with you and be able to figure out, what they want out of a player and what you want
Mm.
out of a coach and a university. So really doing that, and also whenever um, you do eventually get to go on visits, ask as many questions as you want. Really talk to the players that are currently on the team. Figure out if this is a place where you want to be, and if it also has the potential to increase your game and to make you a better player, because that's one thing that you have to make sure when you're going to be a college player, if that program is going to make you a better player and a better person.
Yeah.
And also don't overlook the academics. Make sure they have the either program or the area of study that you're looking into.
Yeah. So, question about, what you just mentioned. So you would reach out to coaches, like send emails and, send what tournaments you're playing and results. Is that correct?
Yes, so
Yeah.
I would send out emails
Mhm.
to or to schools that I was interested in, or um, schools that I possibly have seen out at events. Because it's pretty easy to see somebody walking on like your golf hole, and they're decked out in their school gear. So you could be like, hey. Um, Stuberg from K-State. I saw you at my last AJ event. Just wanted to reach out and say thank you for watching my group. Um, Here is my schedule. Hope to see you out there soon. Go Cats.
Yeah.
And I always try to be, put in something that, is obviously relevant to their school. Like, for K-State, it's,
Yeah.
Go Cats. Um, but something that like is their, saying or logo.
Yeah. And two more things about this that I wanted to, talk about. So for you, you mentioned that you would reach out. Would you, because I've heard both of this, asking this to professional golfers and even some coaches, doing these interviews. For you, would you more advise, a junior golfer, even if they're, playing well and having good results in tournaments, getting some success, would you recommend that they reach out, to coaches on their own? Like you mentioned, send emails, or would you more, recommend that they just, focus on playing in tournaments, having good scores and good results and letting the coaches, see their good results and letting the coaches come to them, what would be sort of your advice on that?
I think you can go two ways at it.
Hmm.
Obviously, reaching out is very important.
Yeah.
In the period where the coaches can't contact you directly, I would call coaches and just have a phone call with them because they will pick up, and that's like a stipulation in the rule. Like they're allowed to answer your phone call. They obviously can't call you, but that's a good also way to have a conversation with the coaches. Um, really pick their brain, and they also can ask you questions
Hmm.
about your game, about what you're looking for in a university and in a
Yeah.
team. So that's also a good avenue and route that I would do. And then hopefully by the time your day of official contact comes, for me it was September 1st. Hopefully
Hmm.
you have calls coming and emails coming at like 12 a.m. and like it's from all the universities that you liked and talked to and build a rapport with.
Yeah. So the final thing, I wanted to learn more about, for you, you're from Texas, Lubbock, Texas, and you went to school at Kansas State. So did you, when you were getting recruited and, choosing what school to attend, did you ever get to go up to Kansas and, see the team, meet the coaches, see the campus and the facilities? And if so, if you did get to do that, was that beneficial for you? And just, just tell me, just how that helped you in the process, if you got to go to the campus.
Yeah, so I took an unofficial and an official visit to K-State. I
Mhm.
had a lot of interest from a lot of different coaches and universities, but and some of them came earlier in the process and some of them came later in the process. But
Yeah.
went up there, had a visit, really enjoyed my time there, felt like home. The weather is pretty similar to Lubbock.
Mhm.
There's just no blowing dirt in Kansas. Um, but it's pretty similar. Obviously, the winters are very cold. But really enjoyed the campus. Everything's very close. I mean, my apartment was literally 3 minutes from where I would eat, study, and, work out. And it took me only 10 minutes to get to the golf course. There's no
Yeah.
traffic. It's a very small college town.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody rallies around the sports and even golf. And I just felt like it was a place where I could, grow as a player. And their course is phenomenal, Colbert Hills. It never plays the same. So it was a good test. We would, move tee markers just to get different feels for the course and loved playing out there. And also Manhattan Country Club also gave us a, tree
Mhm.
lined view to prep for our courses that had tree lines. But really loved my coaches. I had two sets of coaches, obviously, during my 5 years there. But just really loved their academic staff was amazing. And just everything about it, I was really excited. Obviously, I was a junior at the time when I took my visit, but I was super excited to obviously graduate high school and get up there as soon as I could and start my college career. So, I was pretty set on going there after I took my visits. Obviously, I still communicated with all the other universities that were recruiting me, but it was really hard to beat them and what they were going to offer me.
Yeah. So you're obviously Haley, you're from Lubbock, Texas. That's where Texas Tech is. And so for my next question, I've talked to, a lot of college golfers and, pro golfers, and some of them, they always dream they want to play for their hometown team, and then, some want to go out of state and play, out of state for college golf. So for you, your hometown, university would have been Texas Tech, but you ended up going to Kansas State. So just tell me about, what drew you to Kansas instead of, just staying at home, and just going to Texas Tech. And, was your goal always to, did you initially think you wanted to go to Texas Tech, or was your goal always to go out of state, or, did it change in the recruiting process? Just, tell me a little about what drew you from, Lubbock, Texas, to attending Kansas State.
Yeah, so obviously, born and raised in Lubbock, Texas.
Hmm.
Absolutely love Lubbock,
Yeah.
and its people. And obviously grew up a Tech fan, would go to football games. We had season tickets, we would tailgate, and just really loved the university, knew all their fight songs and everything. Um, and obviously played their home course, the Rawls course, growing up, through
Hmm.
different events and such. But um, obviously they were in the mix. They were recruiting me at the time as well. And I really knew their head coach, JoJo Robertson, really well. Um, and their assistant, Matt Wall, at the time, built a great relationship with them. I
Hmm.
also went on um, two visits actually with them, an unofficial and unofficial. Um, but it's the thing of like college golf is business. And obviously, growing up, I would have loved to play for, Texas Tech,
Yep.
but I always knew for myself that I needed to go somewhere that I could grow and prepare for the next stage of my golf career, which was being professional.
Hmm.
And obviously, coaches give you certain deadlines for your um, agreement or your scholarship. So for me, Kansas State offered me in the fall, around October, and I had a few other or offers that were in the fall, but they wanted to know obviously before the spring hit, what my decision was.
Okay.
That's very common for a lot of coaches to do because most of the time they have multiple girls graduating and they need to fill their roster as quick as possible.
Yep.
So they're
Hmm.
also contemplating, okay, if we can't get Haley, um, who's our number two pick or who else are we going to get? So they give you windows, which are nice, but they give you windows of when your scholarship is valid and when they need to move on and make a decision for their program. So obviously, I was offered from K State and other universities in the fall, um, and you know, talked to Tech, and they were like, "Hey, we want you, but we can't offer you until the spring." And at that time, like they weren't able to tell me what initially my offer would be because they were waiting, obviously, for another player or something else for their program. So at that point, I had to make a decision for myself and my future. Um, and I ultimately chose K State, and I am very proud that I chose K State. And everybody here, um, supports me and everything. Um, Obviously, I maybe would have got some weird looks going to practice at the Rawls course if I had my K State bag, but um, I was really happy with my decision. And at the end of the day, um, it's a business.
Yep.
You have to be able to, make those hard calls. And obviously, once I made my decision to go to K State, I did call all the other coaches that offered me, just to let them know out of a courtesy, that I had chosen my school and that I would be making my decision official the following morning. So that way, um, they can make decisions about their team in a timely manner. And that way, you still have a good relationship with those coaches because they, believed at you at one point, and it would be, rude just to not, notify them of your choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great and it worked out for you. So one more thing I wanted to ask, then we'll get into your obviously your successful career at Kansas State. But you mentioned this before, you went from, Texas to Kansas. Obviously, it's not going across the country, but you did go to college in another state from where you grew up from. So just how did you navigate that, going from, growing up to, growing up in Texas to, going to school at Kansas State? You mentioned having to deal with the weather. The weather's different in Kansas, you're going to school in a different state. How did you navigate that? Did you feel, prepared and ready, to go to college in a different state, or were you a little bit unsure initially, going in, and going to, college in a different state?
Yeah, I was really excited to obviously get started and get there.
Mhm.
And I'd previously done a training where I lived in Dallas for like a month when I was a junior golfer. So I was already kind of in that mindset of like, hey, I can, be away from home and still practice and, get my work in and be fine. I know a lot of players that, stay closer to home because they are very close with their family and they need them there constantly. I have a strong relationship with my family, but I knew that they're going to be there to support me. But you just have to, grow up and be able to do things on your own and just become your own person. And getting there, obviously, is a very long drive. It's like almost 10 hours. It's around like 9.5 or so. But got settled in, moved all my stuff in, and then obviously said hi to my coaches, started practicing, and then, said bye to my parents, and then they drove back home. And me being at the golf course right after them leaving was probably the best place for me just because it's a familiar place and it's something that, brings me joy. So I initially did perfectly fine alone. I will say the only thing that sucks about college golf is if your parents come and watch you. And once you have to leave and say bye to them after, seeing them for almost a week, is pretty tough, but you just have to get back to basically your job and get back to work and get back to school, get back to working out, get back to practice. So the lifestyle is a lot different, but it keeps you busy in order for you to succeed.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your success now at Kansas State. Your first collegiate victory was at the 2022 PGA Works Collegiate Championship. You got a victory over your teammate, Gabby, at Kansas State. So just tell me a little bit about this tournament. I know PGA Works is a little bit different and unique tournament compared to other college tournaments. And just what was it like, back in 2022 to get your first college victory at this tournament?
Yeah, so the PJ Works was a super exciting tournament for myself, Gabby McNelly, my teammate, and also my brother played in that event too.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a tournament for a lot of people from different races and ethnic backgrounds. And, just to show how golf has evolved and how many people, enjoy and love golf. The PJ Works is a phenomenal organization, and they put on a class act for their event in Philadelphia. We
Mhm.
stayed in an amazing hotel downtown. Um, you know, had an amazing dinner, had an amazing time. The courses were great. We got to play two courses down there, and it was just a really good experience. One of my other family friends, Rondo Walters, was out there playing too for his university. And it just brought a lot of people together. It was also just a really different tournament for me because obviously it was just me and my teammate Gabby and my coach Christy Knight at the time that went down there, and
Okay.
we still prepped as as it was like a normal college event, but obviously I took notes in order for myself to be as successful as I could. And in most college events, if you're playing with your team, you are kind of like in a stacked order. So you usually see your teammate on the hole before you or hole behind you. There were some rounds I didn't see Gabby at all. So that was a little different. But we ended up playing the last round together, which was interesting because as college teammates, you really don't play together unless you're qualifying. So playing with her was different. I know her game well. We've been teammates for 4 years, and she came out of the gates. She was making birdies left and right. I believe I'll probably get this wrong, but I think I was two down after the turn. I remember looking
Okay.
at the big jumbotron um, scoreboard, and it kind of just like lit a fire. And I was like, hey, if you want this, like you're gonna have to go and get it. Like nothing's gonna be handed to you, obviously, in life or golf or anything like that. So I just stuck to my game plan, took it hole by hole. The other girl that we were playing with, I don't remember, but she was kind of in contention for a bit. And then she just had a few holes not go her way, kind of back to back. So really, it was just kind of me and Gabby, throwing, counter punches back and forth on each holes. And I probably put my head coach in a weird position because she was obviously watching us. She couldn't be um, in the ropes basically with us because it wasn't a team golf scenario, which obviously they had. We were on the individual side, but they obviously had teams that were playing obviously for the PGA Works as well. So she was more of a spectator in that sense, and was having to cheer for me, but obviously having to cheer for Gabby. So I think she was kind of split between the two of us, which put her in a weird predicament. But slowly throughout that back nine, I was able to, make some, really vital birdies back to back, and, just pushing it one hole by one hole. And eventually, I think I made birdie on the last par five or so. But, got the win, and it was very significant because it was my first college win. I was a junior at the time, and that's all I've ever wanted in college. To have a team win, but also an individual win, just because it would kind of solidify all the work that's been done. Um, and to do it there was um, very important and very significant. Um, you know, obviously felt bad that you know, my teammate Gabby was also trying to obviously do that as well. She got second, but she was also happy for me too. Also to have my brother there at the tournament. I would get to see him here and there because they were all flipped on courses, but he wasn't there for the ceremony because he had to fly back to school. But just have his support there too was awesome, and you know we finished the round, got something quick to eat. I wanted to see the Rocky statue so bad and run up those stairs in Philly. So coach was like, yeah, we can go do that before we have to head out tomorrow. So it was a great week, and really just catapulted me for being able to have that towards the end of my season, and to get it done.
Yeah, that's great. So this was at the end of your junior year, so this gave you good momentum going into your senior year. And in your senior year, you got a win in the Bahamas. I've talked to someone from the other Kansas school, University of Kansas, who won the Bahamas tournament this past year. So I've learned, heard a little bit about this tournament. But just tell me about this tournament. What was it like, getting to go and play in the Bahamas, and on top of that, what was it like to get the win back in 2023 in the Bahamas in this tournament?
Yeah, so the Bahamas tournament was a new tournament that our coach Stuberg got us into.
Okay.
And it was really exciting for, us as a team. It's the last tournament of the, fall semester. We were doing pretty well as a team, but, um, we just needed a good tournament. I was playing one man that event, and then we also didn't have Carla Burnett, which is one of our teammates as well. She was playing for her country, Spain, in a tournament in Dubai at the time. So she wasn't able to, be there for the team, but she was doing her thing over there. So all of us went out there to Bahamas. Beautiful place, loved the course. We stayed at this great, resort. It was just a fun week. My coach was like, hey, the winds are going to be really high. Obviously, we're right off the ocean. And he said that we are all capable. We all have amazing games. He goes, but the only thing that'll, push us over that finish line is our mental game. And that, rang true for the whole, rounds that we were out there, because it was a mental battle out there once you got kind of really close to the ocean, because those winds were brutal. But it also helped being from West Texas because it blows pretty hard here. So I was able to have those shots in my arsenal already, that most players didn't. Just growing up here, it just helped me, better hit those shots and get on the greens and hold them better. But we played really well the first few rounds, and we were doing really well. My teammates were pretty close in range with me, towards the top of the leaderboard. I
Mhm.
know the last day, it was basically, um, like 1 through 3 was basically all K-State players, on the leaderboard. So, it was a really good place for us to play. Um, Ended up, not having a great second round, kind of pushed me back on the leaderboard, but final round really just gave it my all. I knew, and once again, I looked at the leaderboard once I was like on the back nine at one point, and I think I was down probably 2 strokes at that point, maybe one or two. But I knew the holes that I was finishing on, were pretty close to the water. And I knew if I made birdies at least on 3 of those holes, I would probably be able to surpass the girls that were kind of, getting close to me in score wise. Um, Ended up finishing the round, was really close. I didn't really know if I got the win or not. I maybe waited after I turned in my scorecard. I maybe waited 5 or 6 minutes, and then my coach Rinko came up and was like, "Haley, you got it done. So proud of you." Hugged my head coach Stu, and he was like, "So proud of you, kid. Like, way to go." And we also, got the team win. So it was our first team win, having new coaches, that year, and my second individual win. But it was also really significant to have it like in a team setting, because obviously when I won previously, it was just me and my coach and my other teammate. So to have my whole team there with me and to be able to celebrate in the Bahamas and, do all that, fun stuff was really, exciting and a great way to cap off, that, end of the fall season. So,
So two things based on, what you've just said. You mentioned, getting the team win. So how special is it, to get a team win?
yeah, so it was just really vital for our
Mhm.
team. We hadn't done great as a team collectively, or we had a few good rounds, but then we would just kind of falter. So to get it done at that beautiful place, and to get that team win, was really special, and to, get it done with our new coaches was even more special.
Yeah. Then my next question is, could you give good perspective, from someone who played Division I golf and who's a pro golfer? But you mentioned, especially in the Bahamas and, growing up in Texas, um, you had to, navigate and deal with the, high winds. So, for you, how do you typically navigate, when you're playing in, tough conditions, or the, weather isn't, exactly ideal? How do you navigate? Just, ultimately, how do you deal with that when you're in a tournament and, the conditions
Yeah,
aren't exactly
yeah,
ideal?
mental game is super important to me.
Okay.
I know, like, our coaches obviously voiced that the whole week when we were there in the Bahamas. And it was like essentially what, got us the W. But making sure I haven't, like, prepped well for my events. I try to, do as much I can to make sure I know the greens, know what my game plan is, and stick to it, and take it hole by hole. Um, I know a lot of people think it's simple as that, but, if you really break it down to that, and just committing to each shot that you hit, even if it doesn't go your way, because obviously once the ball leaves the face, there's nothing else you can do.
Mhm.
But really just committing to everything, and then you can, analyze it after and be like, well, that didn't go my way, but here's what I can do to fix that. Um, that's just how you learn and get better and grow as a player. So that's just kind of where, mental game comes in for me, and how important it is.
Yeah. That's great. So two more things about your time at Kansas State I wanted to, talk about that I think would give, good insight and perspective. So you had a lot of, you got a lot of honors. You had very good success, in your academics. You had, a lot of academic all Big 12 honors. You were the 2023, 2024, Big 12 Women's Golf Student Athlete of the Year. You're an All-American scholar. So just tell me a little bit about, you played Division I golf, which obviously is a lot and it's busy, and you also had success both in both, in golf and academics. So how were you able to, successfully balance and navigate, both your academics and your college golf? Because you had, success in both. You won in college golf, and then you have all these honors in academics. So just, for you, how were you able to balance, both Division I golf and have successful, performance in your academics?
Yeah, so academics has always been really important to me. Obviously, in high school even I, strived myself to get good grades and everything. Um, I ended up being lucky that my high school provided college credit classes while
Okay.
in high school. So I ended up graduating high school with 30 college hours already done. So technically
Um,
going in, I was considered a sophomore, but academically I was still a freshman. Um, so I had a lot of my basics out of the way, and I already knew kind of what I wanted to study. I got my degree in psychology, so I already kind of knew what pathway I wanted to go. But also, K-State does an amazing job with their sports, with their academics and their sports academic counselors that we have. My counselor, Jamie, was just amazing for all my years that I was there. Luckily we were able to get good classes, and the class sizes obviously you're going to have a few lecture classes where it's pretty big, but I was fortunate enough to be further on in my academic career where I was able to be in smaller classes and really get a one-on-one with my professors and get to know them, and let them know like, hey, I'm a college athlete. I'm going to be gone a lot, but I'm also going to put in the work for this class. So just as long as you help me, I will, put in my best effort for this class. And, having tutors is an amazing thing, that K-State provided for us. If you ever need help with any of your courses, they're there for you. And I really um, prioritized getting my homework done before I ever went home. So I would eat dinner with my teammates after practice, and then I would go straight down to Veneer, which is our learning center, and log in and like do my little sign QR code, and it would track how many hours you were there. But I would get my homework done and do all my readings or discussion post or quiz or any of those things. And then once, you know, 9 o'clock, 9:30 hit, I would pack up, drive the 3 minutes to my apartment and, start to wind down and prepare for the next day. But that really helped make me the best player in person and, student I could be, because once I got my work done, it was time to recharge and reload. So I really prioritized obviously my schoolwork. When you're traveling, it's really hard because you're missing lectures, you're missing a lot of things, but I would try to do as much schoolwork as I could prior to leaving. So that way, when you're at the tournament, you can enjoy the place we're going. Obviously, in Bahamas, I didn't want to have any homework at all.
Mhm.
So I made sure to get everything done. So that way, once we got done playing golf, we could go to the pool, go on the slides, hang out, and enjoy our time. Because you don't want to be that teammate that has to go upstairs and take a quiz or read your book, and miss out on the fun things that you can do when you're in college golf, because you didn't do it prior. So that really helped me in my career, and I just strive to get good grades and just be a modeled student athlete, and to show people that you can still get good grades and still get degrees and still get um, certificates, while being a student athlete. It's manageable.
Yeah. Did you ever feel overwhelmed, with everything you had to do, with, academics, taking quizzes, studying for tests, doing all that, and, playing Division I golf, or were you able to navigate it, very well? And
Yeah,
um,
so there were some times I definitely felt overwhelmed.
yeah.
I know my last few years, I didn't obviously have a lot of hours because I was already in my um, grad term, basically. But my courses were more intensive. So, if I got overwhelmed, I called my parents, be like, "Hey, um, what do you think I should do?" I also called my academic advisor and was like, "Hey, can we set up a meeting, make a game plan for this course?"
Mhm.
It's a little different than courses I've done before. And we'd sit down, make a plan, and, you know, carve out some time in order to make that plan work with my schedule. And also just writing down your assignments, making sure you know deadlines, when things are due, and also making sure when you're traveling, making sure you know the time zone differences, because if you're in Mountain Time or you're in Colorado, or you're in the Bahamas or Puerto Rico, obviously there's a lot of different time changes. So you need to make sure if you have something that's due while you're at a tournament, that you get it done in enough time and don't miss that window.
Yeah, well, I think that's great, that you came in, you knew what you wanted to, study and, do in college, and then you had some, college credits. I think that's really great. You had that experience coming into Kansas State. Finally, about your time at Kansas State, I wanted to talk about, you took a fifth year, at Kansas State. So tell me a little about, how you ended up taking the fifth year and just, how was it for you, taking that fifth year and just, yeah, how did that end up and how did that work out for you?
Yeah, so obviously freshman year of college was COVID when COVID hit.
Okay,
We were at this tournament in California, and some teams had already, had experienced COVID. We hadn't. Obviously, we're kind of in the center of the US, so it didn't really hit our school yet. Went back home. Our president of the university said that their spring break was extended. So I was like, oh, I can go back home for a few days.
okay,
So I decided to drive home and, didn't realize that I would be there for the rest of the time and wouldn't go back to school. So that was very interesting because, I was a college golfer, college student, and all of a sudden it was turned upside down. And I was no longer at my university and I was back home in Texas. So it was a very weird situation. And obviously, going back to school after COVID, there was a lot of tests and protocols that we had to follow, which were intensive, but was all done, to make sure we were safe and healthy and, that we didn't get sick. But obviously, since we didn't get to play our spring season and we were only allowed to play two events our following fall season when I was a sophomore,
okay,
um, they allowed us to have, an extra year of eligibility. And off the bat, I knew I wanted to come back and play. Um, on my junior year, obviously I won that year, and then I got an individual regional bid. So I had, good success, but I still, wanted to win as a team and get a lot of more things done. And I still wanted that extra year to prep for pro golf. So I thought, what better way to, stay at school, play all these, great events, and prep. So the decision to play my fifth year was, a no-brainer. Fifth year was a little exciting in a way that, like, we got new coaches midsummer before my fifth year started. Stu Burke he was coach at Tulane, and Rinko, his assistant, was also at Tulane. They came over. They brought two other players, Carla and Julia, and we basically started our new chapter with them being our coaches at K-State. So there was a lot of new learning curves. I know Stu talked to me a lot just to, get a feel for the team. I was the oldest, and he just kind
okay.
of wanted to, make sure that, everything that we liked kind of was still in place, but also that the changes he was making were for the better of the team. And to do that. So we had a good relationship. Obviously met him. He came out to watch my US uh, amateur qualifier in Houston and watched me and my teammate Gabby, and, met my other teammate Remington. And, it was very important that he did that just because, he built the relationship, sooner rather than just showing up at K-State and meeting my new coach for the first time. But that was really important. And he was great off the bat. I was super thankful that he came to K-State or came back actually to K-State since he was assistant around 10 years ago. But I was very thankful for them coming and coaching. And, it was a great perspective to learn from two different coaches who did things obviously different. But put us in the best fields possible, and really helped me my basically extra senior year, with also what I wanted to do post grad with my professional golf, because they knew a lot, and kind of that route to go as well.
That's great. So two more questions I wanted to ask you, Haley. It's about your professional golf career. So, you're new in professional golf. You played, half a season on WAT. So far, what advice would you give to someone, let's say someone just coming out of college, looking to pursue, professional golf, or someone just starting their professional golf career? What advice would you give them, and just, what have you learned that's helped you so far in your pro golf career so far?
Yeah, so becoming a new pro is uncharted territory for a lot of players
Okay.
coming straight out of college. But I've learned to um, make your practices more like quantity over or quality over quantity, making sure that you're not just beating balls for 2 hours and like making sure you're actually like either working on your swing technique or actually like, dialing in numbers.
Hmm.
Um, Making sure that you are putting in correct work in order to see the results you want. And once you get to your event, the prep is over. Basically, you're going to play with the swing you brought and to, just take it one shot by a shot and, just enjoy the process. Really taking everything as a learning experience, obviously just coming out of the gates, but also just putting your best foot out there, playing to your ability and just, enjoying the process. A lot of people don't get to play golf for their, job. So I am super thankful that I'm able to do this and that God has given me this ability and this path to go on.
Yeah. And finally, Haley, how has the start to your professional golf career been so far? And I don't, maybe I asked this before, but what do you see for yourself maybe this season on WT, and just, do you have any goals, where you see yourself in, going forward with your pro golf career?
Yeah, so obviously had a good start to my season last year,
Mhm.
well, this past spring, and didn't have the best finish that I would have liked. But it's all learning, and it could have been just, the grind of being on, tour for a few weeks at a time can kind of catch up with you. So I've really prioritized, endurance and everything, getting stronger. In my off season in order to prepare for these long events. I know like our first tournament out of the gate in Louisiana for the first 2 weeks is going to be very long, and then our next tournament is going to be pretty close in time. So
Okay.
I'm looking at being out there for about 3 weeks and not coming home. So making sure I'm fully prepared for that. Um, and using up as much energy possible for my rounds, and once it's time to shut that off, making sure I recharge properly. I'm just really looking forward to having a good season, making those cuts, getting into possibly the Callaway rankings for the event.
Okay.
I know I didn't really know as much about those going into that half season basically, but getting into those rankings would help me further my career and also possibly get some looks at some Epson events and move up that way.